Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt, Jeff, and Steve. G'day, guys.
G'day, mate. You're back.
I'm back. Well, I had to, as Matt says, I had to adult for a while, which means that there's a lot been happening, obviously, with product launches, aka the Gut Right, and obviously a lot of stuff happening in the US at the moment, which is good. And just unfortunately, we draw straws, and Matt's more important to the podcast than me. Nobody wants to
have me in the other meetings.
No, nobody wants to hear me talk about health and science and stuff. I'm here as a bit of a, host more than anything. The hostess with the mostess, as they say.
It's amazing because, you talk about Gut Right and the sales that have just been huge and it's been a massive response to it. And now we're talking about, what are we talking about today?
Well, let's get straight into it because we're going to be talking about diet damage solutions. So this covers everything from metabolic damage, from those that are competing, those that are getting into the different types of comps, guys and girls. But specifically, seems to be a lot of information out there from girls getting into metabolic damage. I don't know if it's more favouring women than men, Matt, or if it's just anybody.
No, I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's coming up on my feeds. I see a lot.
Yeah, I think you follow a lot more girls on your social media. Actually, so you probably see a little bit more of the bloated tummies from the girls and their bikinis than the blokes. I actually don't
follow anyone, really. I was just could turn it on from time to time, and I mention nothing on Facebook. I'm virtually invisible. Anyway.
It's what they call a creep.
Well, we're going to be talking... Yeah, that's exactly what I am. And then you've got yo-yo dieting and you've got... rebound dieting and things like that for the average population who aren't doing competitions but are sick and tired of doing a diet for a period of time, then going back to what they'd consider to be normal eating, and then all of a sudden blowing out.
Yeah.
So basically what we are talking about, all of those things you're talking about is extreme weight loss. So sometimes in regards to competition, they've lost fat and maintained their muscle. Sometimes we're looking at other cases of extreme weight loss where they've lost muscle, preserved fat. We created a sarcopenic obesity. We're also going to talk about even cancer, cachexias and anorexias and other forms of muscle loss and extreme weight loss. And what we've found, what's interesting about it is because we expected to see, we always talk about hormonal profiles and all that sort of stuff. And when people talk about metabolic damage, they're talking about hormonal or metabolism, energy expenditure defects associated with hormones and inflammation, all sorts of weird stuff like that. But when you look at all of these different things, even I'm a little bit weird. I go off on a bit of a tangent. I even started researching hibernating bears and what happens when they have a 5 to 7 months of hibernation and how their metabolism changes. But we're seeing some really interesting patterns across a lot of these cases where they have extreme weight loss and what changes. And for those that get their rebound weight gain, we found some patterns, which is really cool because it's cool to find a pattern, but it's kind of cool to find a pattern that you can create a solution for as well.
A modifiable pattern,
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's right.
Really interesting because, in the olden days when I was trained, it was about, people that are overweight have got a sluggish thyroid. That was the first thing that we were taught, and it's all thyroid and that sort of thing. But what we know is that the obese people don't have a slow thyroid, and we know that, in fact, lowering calories increases your reverse T3, which of course is a negative influence on your metabolism. So that's something we're aware of. It actually reduces your clearance of reverse T3. That's the mechanism.
Yep. And that little bug is the one that gets into your thyroid and plugs up the receptors, which stops the more active form. Yeah. And it's amazing how many times we're taking FAQs and talking about it, how much that's happening. So,
yeah. See, what's an interesting thing with the thyroid is, but what you're saying, Steve-O, is the papers you're referring to, they showed people that ate a lot of calories had a faster thyroid.
Yes.
Okay. And then what you've shown is that people that cut the calories, they get a slow thyroid.
Yes.
Because thyroid regulates your metabolism.
Yeah.
So it goes to show, what the data you've just pointed shows, that our energy in can determine our energy out, which is one of those things where people go into starvation modes and that sort of stuff and their metabolism shuts down. So a common finding in people that are resistant to weight loss is an elevated reverse T3, where they get their metabolism shuts down because they aren't eating adequate calories. But then it also shows people that are eating calories in abundance, their thyroid and their metabolism will actually speed up.
Yeah, it does.
Things like postprandial thermogenesis. So you see these people that have these big feeds, high calories, and they sweat like a trooper and everything after that meal.
They used to call it the meat sweats.
Yeah.
Remember those things? And that so people might know what that is. But it's very interesting because,
I think John does.
Oh, yeah. let's go. I get. You see, you're right. The high calorie diets do increase. But it's contradictory because people say, "Oh, I'm overweight because I've got a sluggish metabolism." You heard that one, haven't you? It's not true.
So if you want to know if your metabolism or if your rebound weight gain is because you've got a sluggish thyroid, then you need to test it properly.
Yes.
So you look at the symptom picture, which on atpscience.com we got those lists if you want to go to, or you can just Google hypothyroid symptoms and it'll give you a good list.
Yeah.
Also measure your body temperature and see where your basal body temperature is, because your basal body temperature is determined by your metabolic rate. And then what you also want to do is get a test done. So you want to have a look at your thyroid hormone levels. So you can want to measure T4, free T3, reverse T3, and all your thyroid autoantibodies.
Yeah, that's important.
And then determine whether your thyroid is fast or slow for you, and then determine whether you need to treat that or prevent it. Because there is a percentage of people with rebound weight gain that have got defective thyroid. And sometimes that defective thyroid has come because of extreme calorie restriction, and that has increased reverse T3. Yeah, it's crazy, hey?
It is crazy. It's very interesting because what we know from the studies is that they actually did a review, and I've got it in the notes that's going up on the website, where they looked at people who went on long-term low-calorie diets, just a classic, I won't mention any brands, and they found that on average they increased after baseline by every year of dieting, they increased by 0.5 kilos of weight at the end of the day, like at the very end. Not during the dieting, but after the refeeding thing. So dieting, in a way, makes you fat. Not the dieting part, but the rebound. So there's something changing in their body when they diet. And we've been sort of figuring out what that is. It's thyroid or what else there's other things.
Well, just quickly, before we move on from thyroid, we just quickly, because I'm just conscious of some people might be sitting there, what the bloody hell's reverse T3?
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking about that, so with the thyroid hormone, so T4 is the hormone that's released from your thyroid. By the way, it's not TSH, which is the one they measure. That's your brain telling your thyroid what to do. So T4 comes out of your thyroid. It does bugger all, really. Your body converts T4 to T3, which is 7 to 8 times more effective than T4 as a fat burner, metabolism stimulator. And then it goes through to T2, which is the most potent thermogenic in the mitochondria and that sort of stuff. But if you are lacking calories, if you're in starvation mode, if you've got a lot of inflammation, a lot of allergies, intolerances, if your gut health isn't good, if you're stressed and you're toxic, then what happens, the T4 can convert through to reverse T3. So one cause of reverse T3 is not enough calories, but it could be inflammatory problems, could be gut problems and all that sort of stuff. And what happens if you make reverse T3, it looks just like T3 and it binds into the T3 receptors and it tricks your body into thinking you've got heaps of T3. So what happens is your brain says, oh man, the thyroid's going awesome. Look at all these T3s bound everywhere. In particular, reverse T3 has a very high affinity for the pituitary gland. And it covers the pituitary gland, thinking the pituitary gland says, man, you got thyroid hormone everywhere. This is amazing. I'm going to release a little bit less TSH, which stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And then the thyroid's going to go slower. So if you're measuring TSH and T4 only to regulate thyroid, you're going to totally miss what's actually happening with your metabolism. That's why you want symptoms, body temperature, and the full profile, including reverse T3. It has 1/100th the fat burning effect of T4. So if it goes from T4 to T3 or T4 to reverse T3, you're up to 7 to 8,000 or 100 times 700 or 800 times difference in your fat burning ability.
And reverse T3 is not a bad thing. It helped us through periods of, when you're on the farm and when you're hunting and gathering,
or
hibernating. It's you want lots of that, or when you can't find food or there's a food shortage. Just these days, there's no food shortage, really, is there, in a Western culture? So,
but there's lots of inflammation, lots of allergies, lots of that sort of stuff. So some people have got this stupid. And another common cause for its deficiencies of such things as zinc and selenium. Yeah, so that's a thyroid sort of thing. So you'll know if you're in that thyroid group. But some of the reading I found, Steve-O, that showed they went and measured a heap of fat, like obese people, and showed that, oh man, the hormones are out of whack. We've got insulin resistance, we've got cortisol issues, we've got estrogen issues, we've got all these sort of things. They measured control lean people and didn't find those same hormonal profiles. And then they linked those hormones. So these hormones are associated with obesity. So we talk about association. Then we go back and go, but are they a cause or a consequence? And because what they found happening is once they got these obese people lean and they went and measured their bloods again, they were back to normal. So what it showed is when someone was obese, they get this metabolic profile that explains the obesity, or a biochemical picture that can explain the symptom picture of obesity. When they get them lean, those things disappear and they go back to a normal lean physiology.
Yes.
So why do they get the rebound weight gain? And what we found is there is something that does not change in all of these cases, and that's the microbiome.
Microbiome again.
And I know
It keeps coming back to the gut.
Yeah, I know, and it's not planned.
No.
No, well, the funny thing
you
is,
told me
Matt,
not to do a gut podcast, like do something different because we're going to annoy people with gut. But everything goes back to it.
But it makes so much sense because I was thinking about it the other day. Why is it that when, people are trying medications or products, most of the time it works, some of the time it doesn't? I mean, again, I'm not saying that the gut's responsible for all of those anomalies, but it must be responsible for a large part of it. If your gut is creating effectively a different chemical, biology in your body because of these certain bugs, whatever it is, it has to interact.
Yeah,
it has to metabolite things differently.
And these bugs live in our guts because they're in our environment. Okay, now they survive through seasons. And this is the big point: is these gut bugs are designed to hang with you for the long term. And like even I did some cool reading about these hunter-gathering tribes, the Hadzes or whatever they call themselves. I can't remember already. I forgot it. I remember the bug stuff, but I forgot their name. So these hunter-gatherer guys, they find sometimes that when their seasons aren't right, when they miss a wet season or something like that, certain strains of bugs can totally disappear and not be detected, and then come back years later when the environment changes or when certain things fruit and grow and everything like that.
So, Matt, do you think that's them laying dormant for all that time, or do you think that they've maybe because of eat the food?
It's in the environment as well. You get a combination. So this is the coolest thing I've found is when, for example, you can change your body in like 1 to 3 months. Okay, you can go from like obese to leaner, make significant changes in your body composition within 1 to 3 months. It takes about 5 to 7 months for your gut flora to change in response to your changing diet, for not the number but the ratios. Now, what they're finding is when you're obese, and when you're eating a lot of food, don't forget there's 10 times as many bug cells in your gut. I say this over and over again.
I know.
10 times. I know you're sick of hearing about it, but it's an important point.
I know
there's
it's
10
important.
times as many bug cells in your gut as there are whole cells in your whole body. So when you're building cells in your body, you're building gut bug cells. There's so much more of them than you. So what happens is when you're bulking up and when you're in the process of getting fat, now whether you're bulking up to get muscly in prep for a shredding phase for your comp, or whether you're bulking up just for a before photo accidentally, you're bulking up. And what you're also bulking up is your gut flora. When you change your diet, the gut bugs numbers reduce, but so the definition of dysbiosis is either you've got the wrong type or the wrong amount of bugs. And so what happens is you're still dysbiotic when you lose weight, but the problem is you've got less bugs, but you've got the same bugs. And then when the food comes in, they all thrive and they go back to that profile of obesity. So what I'm saying is they've done some really cool studies where they've found that you can create rebound weight gain, and that's showing how the rebound weight gain happens. So what they've found is when you're getting fat and when you're obese, you create an obese microbiome. So you create a particular ratios of bugs within your guts that has allowed you to become obese. You know how some people can eat all the stuff they want and they just can't put on weight, and other people look at food and put on weight? So that obese metabolic profile within your gut flora creates the obesity associated with your changes in diet and exercise and everything. So it's the gut flora that changes, makes your body change. Then when you change your body, you change your diet and you reduce your calories and you do more exercise, you still have the obese ratios or the obese profile of bacteria, but because you've fed them less, you've just got less of them. Now, for each 1 month that your diet changes for fat loss, it takes 5 months of that same diet to change your microbiome. So the studies show it takes 5 times longer to change your gut flora than it does to change your body cells.
It's crazy, isn't it? And it's been confirmed with rat studies too.
Well, they've even got those fat rats, and they got fat rats, made them lean. So they got fat rats, made them skinny,
dieted them,
and then took the poop out of them and put them into a skinny rat, and it got fat.
Fat. Just eating normal food.
Without changing its diet or exercise.
So
this rat was happily just plodding along, man. I'm a finely tuned rat, eating my stuff and doing my things. And then some boy shoved a fat rat's poop in, and next thing you know, he's a fat rat eating the same food, doing the same exercise. What the hell happened here?
Yeah.
And so you see what happens is it takes 5 times as long to change your gut flora as it does change the cells in your body. So you can diet for 1 month, get significant changes. It's actually, you've got to maintain that change in diet for up to 5 months to change your gut flora, unless you cheat.
Well, I was
we have
gonna
worked
say,
out how to cheat.
Is there some shortcuts?
Because guess what? Tell them about the. Do you want to tell them about the flavone stuff that
Well,
we found?
can I tell them another problem first?
Tell me
we'll give them
problems.
sure.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Don't
Sure.
tell me your problems.
Well, there's a couple of studies that point to particular bacteria in the gut. Well, when I say bacteria, it's a prokaryote. It's not really a bacteria, but let's just call it a bug. Keep it simple. And the bug is an interesting one. It's a methyl producing bug. Okay, and it's called methyl brevibacter smithi. Okay.
We're going to
Was
call
there
it
a guy
Breaking
called
Bad
Smith involved in the
It
discovery
was.
of
It
this?
was the Smith. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's typical
What a
stupid
surprise.
naming after himself. And this bug, when you fast or starve yourself or go on low calorie diet, this bug grows in your guts. And why does it do that? Because it looks at your food and goes, oh my God, this poor organism is starving, and it extracts more calories from foods that would be low in calories. It ferments polysaccharides, so the things that would normally pass through you, it drags more calories out of your food.
So by fermenting the polysaccharides, is that a good thing or a bad thing for you, Steve? Because
Well,
polysaccharides,
it's
as you
good
say, is the most, well, Matt says, is the most inflammatory compound, or one of
Lipopolysaccharides.
No,
yeah.
you're thinking lipopoly. Lipopolysaccharide is a bacterial cell wall
Polysaccharide.
fragment.
Yes.
But a
Complex.
polysaccharide is a complex sugar molecule. Active ingredients in such things as echinacea, reishi mushrooms, all that sort of stuff.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So it extracts more calories out. Is that a good thing? Yes. If you're starving, it's fantastic. However, if you're dieting and then you go off your diet, which a lot of people do, then this bug's still active and it still draws more calories out of the food. So they go back eating a normal healthy diet and they get fat again. So this is a response.
So it's almost like jacking the car up on a jack, putting the foot to the accelerator.
Yeah.
We're going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but the car's not moving.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden you drop the jacks again when you put the food back in, and all of a sudden your weight gain is just going to
Takes off.
skyrocket.
And that's the mechanism. And we know that in kids, they tested the stool of 470 something kids, and they found one bacteria was elevated in all of them. It was that one.
Wow.
So this is
How do you kill it?
Well,
You want to kill it?
What about our rat studies, though?
Yeah, the rat
They
studies.
showed the main bug that is more related to us
Yes.
was lactobacillus.
Yes.
So the key feature with the resistant strain that could be transplanted into other bugs and make them fat were lactobacillus species, which are firmicutes. So I went and
Yogurt.
showed all the firmicutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
firmicutes.
yogurt,
Yeah, well,
depending on where you come
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. So those sort of things. But I tell you another thing. So Steve-O just mentioned that when you go through this process of calorie restriction, your microbiome changes to get more yield of calories out of your food, okay, to increase the amount of energy you're getting from your food. Because usually other bugs consume a lot of that energy.
Yeah.
Okay, they actually use it because it's all about them, remember?
Yep.
So a lot of the time they're consuming the energy, but when they're fearful that their host is going to die, they share some. And they'll go through and go, I'm going to give you a whole heap of that energy. So that way, but the problem is, then we look at energy expenditure. Now, other bugs control our energy expenditure. And as we change the ratios of bugs within our guts, because I said the numbers reduce, but the profile is still imbalanced, they actually consume less energy. We actually get less energy expenditure from our gut, so we get more calories that way as well. But what they also do, these bugs are responsible for converting nutrients in our food into other compounds that our body can use. Now, you know how I keep talking about polyphenols, modbiotics, okay? So polyphenols go in and they control ratios of gut. Some polyphenols kill certain bugs, usually the bad ones, and other polyphenols increase good bugs. The good bugs, when they feed on polyphenols, they make postbiotic compounds, okay? So we talked about probiotic, prebiotic, symbiotic, modbiotic. Now, postbiotic is basically meaning that if I feed your gut bugs polyphenols from things like pomegranate, for example, or rosemary, then the pomegranate gets fed on by the bugs and it makes a compound called naringenin. That's a postbiotic flavonoid. Naringenin significantly increases energy expenditure by upregulating uncoupling proteins, modifying the Krebs cycle, and stimulating thyroid hormone conversion pathways and avoiding reverse T3s. And then rosemary, after getting fed by these bugs, makes a compound called apigenin, which is also a very powerful energy expenditure flavonoid. Now, the studies show that when you're cutting your carbs, when you're cutting your calories, if you cut your carbs and you reduce a lot of those polyphenols that might be found in your diet from fruits and all that sort of stuff, then what happens is you lose these postbiotic compounds that control your energy expenditure.
Brilliant.
So, but what they've done, what's even the coolest bit about this whole thing is they cheated and they put them back in while they were dieting to see what happened.
Yeah.
And when they put the flavonoids in while you're in calorie restriction, that allowed you to still maintain energy expenditure and stop the overgrowth of the bad bugs that increase your energy yield. They could actually prevent the rebound weight gain.
Incredible. Well, that's why you're a genius, Matt.
And they could prevent. Well, thank you. And they could prevent.
No,
No, we're not. But the cool thing is this is where they can prevent the obese profile in the microbiome. So what we're saying is, if you bulk up, you grow a fat group of bugs. Those bugs want you to stay fat because they think that's your plan. You know, like a bear. So you'll go and get really fat in summer and feed up, and then for 5 to 7 months you'll hibernate. So your body wants you to get back to your rebound, what you were before you hibernate. Your body does that sort of stuff and thinks this is what he wants. You know, we'll give him what he wants. So what you find is you get obese or large or bulk. It don't have to be obese. You can just get really massive. You know, bulking up. You know, building massive amounts of muscle. You create a profile in your gut flora to maintain that body shape. Then what happens is you cut your carbs. So what happens is it's just like summer's over, we're going into winter, all the fruits and berries and honeys and everything's disappeared. And so what happens is these bugs, they can wait up to 5 to 7 months for that food to come back before they die.
A season.
Yeah, season. Like a hibernation period.
Yeah. Now you mentioned uncoupling protein, and that's a really important point. Do you want to explain the biochemistry?
Not at all, because I've moved way past that.
I know. I tried to say, they may not know what uncoupling protein is.
Well, they're fools, Steve. Google it. Uncoupling protein. Google the bloody thing.
Well, it's pretty easy to explain.
Oh, it's a very powerful thermogenic compound that drives fat into the mitochondria.
Exactly. And it's kind of like if you imagine your fuel tank as your fat, okay? And it's like driving along with your accelerator on, and you're driving along and everything's going good. You're burning fat as energy and all that sort of thing. It's like putting your foot on the clutch. You don't go as far, but you burn more energy. Do you know what I mean? And that's what uncoupling protein does. It uncouples the mitochondria basically, and you get spin off for these electrons, and you get inefficient energy burning. So you actually burn more energy than you are. So it's a very key thing. So that's what the nanogen and those flavonoids, which are polyphenols, they actually cause weight loss that way. So I remember I mentioned to you this, I remember people saying, you eat grapefruit and it makes you lose weight. Well, grapefruit's a very, very important form of nanogenin.
Well, this is what I was saying before, that Matt's a bit of a genius because he included the naringenin into the T432.
Ages ago.
Exactly.
Ages ago. And as you said, Matt, it's also a fantastic compound for modifying gut bacteria.
It's brilliant in pomegranate. Pomegranate is heaps better than the grapefruit because you don't have the same interactions with the liver and all the other medications.
Yeah, there is an indication with the liver.
Extends half-life, doesn't it?
It does extend the half-life. So a lot of people have grapefruit with their, like John does with his Viagra.
The other thing I was going to say...
Hang on, I still haven't finished my thing. Because you interrupt. Look, let me just finish the summary for the people that might be following. What we've got to do, we spend a period of time bulking up, and that bulks up our gut. I've got to say it again because people have forgotten what I was saying. We bulk up our gut flora, okay? That stuff controls our metabolism. When we cut carbs, we reduce the number, but they don't die. They just sit dormant. They shoot out some spores and eggs. Then when we go back to our normal diet, all the bugs grow back, but they're in a profile for obesity. And all of a sudden, they get really big and they get really fat, and so do you, okay? Because they haven't died off. Now, this is the really important bit. That's where I was up to before.
Exactly.
This is the really important bit. While you're cutting your carbs to shred, when you're cutting your carbs to cut that fat off, what you need to do is you need to increase your polyphenols. So when you cut your carbs, look for foods. You want to fill up your foods you fill up your diet with foods very high in polyphenols. You want to add lots of herbs and spices. So if you're going into a comp prep, instead of just having chicken and broccoli and you've taken away the rice, what we really want to be doing is throwing in lots of herbs and spices, okay? You want to add rosemary to everything. You want to put garlic into everything. You want to actually throw in lots of turmerics. You want to throw in all of your gingers and all that sort of stuff. You want to throw in... skins and peels and seeds. You want to really make sure that your salads aren't just sitting there full of bloody iceberg lettuce and giving you absolutely nothing when you could fill it up with corianders, unless you're a coriander hater, don't hate me. You know, things like parsleys and all of these other
Vietnamese
functional
mints
herbs.
and coriander.
Yeah, exactly. Vietnamese mint's a really good idea. All the different mints, fill them up coriander, all the basils, oreganos, thyme, all of these things have the most potent antimicrobial polyphenols out of all of them. Plus, things like rosemary you can have as a tea. You can marinate everything in rosemary. You can actually just have your salad dressings. Like, man, seriously, get pomegranate vinegar, get a safflower seed oil or a pomegranate seed oil, infuse that with rosemary, throw a heap of like fresh rosemary leaves and that sort of stuff into that. You've actually made yourself a really powerful polyphenol salad dressing that you can then throw across all your meals. So
squeeze a bit of lemon.
Yeah, so when you're doing your... I read a really cool post the other, a meme. It was a bit of a smart-ass one. I thought it was really cool because I kind of, I'm a bit weird like that. But it basically said, you know, for those people that think calories don't matter and just eat clean, what happens when they want to lose weight? Do they eat cleaner? You know, and it's like, no, they eat
less calories.
Less calories, you know. So it's really funny to think. But what we got to focus on is not so much just clean and not so much calories, but functional foods. We actually have the ability to not just avoid calories, but we have the ability to supplement polyphenols as part of our diet. Our gut right product is basically polyphenols. Okay, it's all the seeds and the peels and the skin. So when you're in a fat loss campaign, or if you're just coming out of comp season, or if you've lost a heap of weight, you need to start loading up your diet on polyphenols to change your microbiome so that the weight doesn't come back. But more importantly, when you're in that fat loss campaign and when you're in that shredding campaign, load up on the polyphenols then, so your gut flora totally changes, so you don't have that potential for rebound weight gain.
Because you're killing them off. So again, gratuitous, you know, ATP science product flog. But while you are cutting down, especially if you want to try and kill off these bugs, because they start starving, good time to, you know, throw this sort of stuff down, because they're going to eat it and they're going to die. Obviously, gut right, probably the prime one, T432, and also the AMP, because it's got the pomegranate oil in there as well too. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny, Matt, because I was having a look just quickly. We did our first gut health podcast back at episode 7.
That's true.
And I think, I'm not 100% sure, some of our regular listeners probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where we mentioned chicory. And the amount of research that you've done since then, and the research that's recently come out on the gut, has helped, you know, increased our understanding, your understanding, you know, so much more. But it's funny, the premise that we were talking back then was, don't eat chicory. Yeah, you might lose weight, but what it's doing to the flora in your gut, we were saying you need the different types, but we didn't probably have the full understanding of the whole firmicutes, the bacteroidetes, you know, all that sort of stuff, and the impact that the polyphenols had from the fruit. Because I always used to say, and I still, way back when, and, you know, I've always asked this question, surely fruit is important in the diet, and cutting it out completely and eating chicory, you know, chicken and broccoli, long-term cannot be good for you. But I didn't know why. It was instinctive, you know. I mean, you had a bit more of an idea, Matt, but the ability now, with all the research and everything that you've done to be able to fully blend this out, again, yes, you need to be careful of calories. Yes, you need to be careful of consuming sugars. And food has changed, which is really important to state. I mean, that can't be probably understated. That can't be overstated, I should say. But it's amazing how now we understand.
The funniest one's T4. Like, if you ever look, you know, got to remember back in whatever 2010 or something like that, Jeff and they said, come, you know, to make a fat loss product. So go make a fat loss product. We need a fat loss product.
Came out in 2000, and then 2 years later, I think it was 2012. It came out.
Yeah. That's because crap manufacturer. So what was I saying? Yeah, T432 was crazy. They said make a fat loss product. Now, I just went away because I was a naturopath, and this is how I do it. I just go and research fat loss. And I come back and said, you know, here's a product that you take in a capsule with each meal 3 times a day. And they looked at me going, what the hell? Why isn't it a pre-workout full of stims and carnitines and things like that? And I was just, well, that's not how you burn fat. I mean, you burn fat by boosting your metabolism 24 hours a day. You actually exercise to deplete your stored energy and get the metabolism cranking. You don't burn that much fat during training.
Not at all.
It's all after. But the funny thing is we went through and researched a lot of ingredients that support insulin sensitivity, thyroid, and all that sort of stuff, and just typical things that were shown that when people eat them, they burn fat.
Yeah.
And their metabolism goes faster and that sort of stuff. And that's where, and we base the formula on that because that was the research available at the time.
Yeah.
But what's happened is over the next 5 years or so, 5, 6, 7 years, all this new research is coming out talking about polyphenols and microbiome. They're all in the T432.
Yeah.
So all these herbs that were shown to be good for metabolism and burning fat and that, the mechanisms of action, there's so many, they're variable. But the big point is the effect it had on the microbiome is the reason why these things have long-lasting results and not just have a stimulant.
It's amazing
Do you
because...
see the drug studies?
Well, the drug studies are amazing.
They will come back worse.
Yeah.
What about cholesterol?
Yeah.
I can't even say the bloody thing. It comes from Thunder God Vine.
Wow.
Thor will be pissed off.
Yes,
You think you're Thor? I'm so Thor I
Thor.
can't even pith.
Well, he's the god of lightning. I think, I'm the god of thunder.
Yeah,
Yeah, after
I've been
I
on
take
that
gut
gut right. Yeah, day 3 on the
Lord
God
of Thunder.
Yeah,
Gee.
and it's day 5 when you think you're not
Yeah,
Thor.
you're in
I'm
trouble.
Thor.
I'm Thor.
You
It's-
think you're Thor?
It's funny because like the drug things, are pretty terrible. But you mentioned things that traditionally burn weight, like cinnamon. We thought that was great for weight loss because it's insulin sensitivity. Now I know it affects the gut. Green tea,
Green tea's great.
which helps weight loss. And I thought, oh, that's crap. So
Yeah,
much caffeine in that.
whole thing.
But before we go,
Yeah.
before you move on, they will tell you that the green tea's weight loss effects are from EGCG
Yeah.
as one active component, which is very easily created synthetically. Like it's very rarely do you see green tea extracts used in these products. It's just EGCG. Your microbiome has to convert EGCG into the active urolithin that actually does the work. The problem is they could never measure the urolithin. Urolithin is just a derivative of EGCG. So what's happened? EGCG, epigallican, catechin, gallate. How's that, Steve?
Nice work.
Epigallagher catching gallate.
Yeah, I said it better. EGCG feeds the microbiome. The microbiome break it down and convert it into a postbiotic derivative, which is known as a urolithin. The urolithin's extremely stable and goes through the body with an amazing bioavailability. So what happens, all these people are out there saying, EGCG does all the work because when I measure this green tea, I can measure EGCG. It doesn't have any of these derivatives from microbiome because it hasn't been fed to the microbiome yet. Then when they go into your body, they can't measure the urolithins in your bloodstream. So what they actually do is they go through and go, okay, well, EGCG goes in here, 20% of it goes into your bloodstream. Therefore, it's EGCG is doing all the work, but it's got very poor bioavailability. We need to make that 20% absorption into 100% absorption. But that'll actually stop it from bloody working.
Yeah, right.
Bypasses the gut microbiome.
So this is
Similar story to turmeric.
So this is the thing with these polyphenols. Exactly, and I'm glad you said it because I got a cool paper here showing
I'll print
turmeric. So turmeric is one of those polyphenols that if you do it, if you use turmeric in your weight loss phase, it stops a rebound weight gain, and it does that by altering your gut flora.
And that was published in what?
1985, 2017. No, that was close. There was another one, 1985.
Right.
Is in 1985 when they first started saying they found a link between the polyphenols and the rebound weight gain, but they couldn't work out what it was. Remember, in 1985, we did not have any of the microbiome data.
Wow.
So...
Yeah,
I know,
it's
the-
cool when science catches up and actually goes, here you go.
Yeah,
Here's the reason how it works.
And exactly, but the best bit is when science catches up and kind of confirms our intuition.
Exactly.
So when we were thinking, I kind of figured that was good for you.
Because it's
you know?
only in the last decade that the process for mapping the human genome, which is the 16S messenger RNA method, the famous method that measures what bugs you've got in your gut. Now we know there's 100 times more DNA in your gut than there is in your body.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Dr. Doug last night, who's been on the podcast before, and he went to a seminar and they talked about gut microbiome.
Wow.
And this is at a medical conference.
Doctors.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the most basic. He said I knew it all, which is weird because he's a medical doctor, but they're just realising it, and that was the most
Great.
popular speech.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that good?
It is
The
good.
funny thing is, so and again, we're talking about this research with the gut flora rebound weight gain. So of course,
Yeah.
what they studied was another drug, which is a derivative of a herb, which they've now isolated one component. And the problem is it created significant weight gain because it helped energy expenditure as part of the diet phase, but it did not address the microbiome. So they got significant weight regain. Another interesting one, which I found really interesting, was a leptin agonist. So they used a leptin.
Tell them what leptin is.
So leptin is basically a compound that will tell your body to burn fat.
Yeah.
And the best source of leptin is fat people. The problem is you get resistant to your leptin.
Yeah.
And so leptin resistance means you can't burn fat. So they've worked out ways of making you feel the effects of leptin with drugs, which will increase your energy expenditure and that sort of stuff. The problem is, again, those drugs did not interact with the microbiome like actual food does. And so their rebound weight gain was so much worse than the controls that actually lost the weight through diet. And this, what it's showing is, and these people that lose their weight through diet, just like very low calorie diets, like, man, what about those wankers doing the 500 calorie, we're allowed to say wanker, aren't we? 500 calorie a day diet and injecting or inhaling or supplementing with HCG. There's a theory that the only reason why both men and women hold fat is so if they're starving while pregnant, they can release it.
Yeah,
typically men don't get pregnant.
No,
do men have HCG in them?
A little bit.
Little
it's
bit.
Traces. Yeah, HCG is a chemical that's what they measure when you go to the doctor to see whether
that's
you're
on your
pregnant.
pregnancy test. Yeah.
It also measures cancer, marker of cancer. Isn't it?
Yeah, it is a marker of cancer. It does stimulate cancer growth. That's a problem with it. And so they give this drug, I'm going to call it, it's a hormone.
Yeah.
And then they put on an extremely low calorie diet so they can access more fat stores. Extraordinarily dangerous diet.
And the 500 so these people lose significant weight, but it's all muscle. And of course they get the rebound weight gain because two things happen. Their energy expenditure is significantly reduced because they got no muscle for a basal metabolic rate. And at the same time, because that diet through 500 calories with no education on how to control gut flora, they haven't fixed any gut flora, so they get fatter and fatter.
Yeah, and we mentioned that, I think, in starving yourself to obesity. The second part is obviously the loss of muscle tissue, which is the driver of your metabolism.
But we didn't know about the microbiome stuff back then.
No, we did not.
Even the earlier stages of our podcasting, man. Seriously, we've been learning so much. So I know a lot of our listeners are, but it's kind of sharing info because we're learning. As we learn stuff, we just share it with you guys so you can learn too.
One of the greatest monumental failures in nutrition is a calorie-restricted diet. It just shows that it simply doesn't work long term. But what they do with the studies is quite clever. They say, righty, we're going to put you on X calories and we're going to see how you go after 10 weeks. And after 10 weeks, they've lost weight. And they go, well, it works, bye. And then they go put on fat and they're not measured. So this is it's the long-term effects. And starving yourself to obesity is a classic way to call it. And it's through your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
The big one is, Steve, is that, and I've mentioned this before, but there's the mindset is obviously incredibly important. So a lot of people do a 12-week challenge, which I think is fantastic, right? But the problem is it's like getting the black belt. And when I was doing martial arts when I was younger, so many of the junior black belts, black belt means way of life, right? I mean, when you get that, that actually shows that you've effectively done your apprenticeship, and then from there, you're actually, you've actually said, I'm committed to it. I'm going to go all the way through, right? So
that's when I'd quit.
That's when most people quit. That's when most people quit because what happens is they have a goal that they're going to get to, whatever it is. I'm going to, do this. I'm going to lose X amount of weight. I'm going to put in the hard yards for 12 weeks and lose the weight. And then as soon as they do that, as Matt said before, the gut microbiome hasn't changed. Those bugs are just dormant. They then go, oh, I'm going to celebrate. The problem is that unless they're killed off, again, this is where you get this classic yo-yo, dieting. But it's the mental aspect of it, which is why I hated The Biggest Loser and things like that as well too, because they focus on weight. They don't look at long-term sustainability. Obviously, we know we need to reduce calories or increase calorie output, but it's got to be a combination of those things long-term. And then you're going to see long-term sustainable weight loss that you can maintain. How many of these people that you see do these 12-week challenge, as I said, this is this yo-yo dieting, they can't control themselves because the mental aspect of it, the gut bugs, as we've said before, Matt, crave. They absolutely go Burko and they crave, right, you've got to eat sugar, you've got to eat sweets. And so, I mean, unless you're incredibly, incredibly strong mentally, which, let's face it, most of us are not that strong, after competing for a show or the end of the 12-week challenge where you get judged, you can't maintain that high level. And once you break that barrier, the floodgates open, and then it's like, well, I've had one donut, I'm going to have 10.
Yeah, but it's not just that mentally, because that's the bugs.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So those bugs lay dormant, and as soon as you feed them, the little buggers go, yoo-hoo! Woo.
Let's go.
And they grow up. They usually ferment the food too, by the way. So a classic sign is that if you've been cutting out all these carbs, you go for your cheat meal and you get like crazy bloating and excessive amounts of gas. You know that these bugs are growing back and thriving, a little microbrewery going on in there. And all these bugs are going to come back in larger numbers than what they were before because you got them plus their eggs. Mm-hmm. So if you do a 3-month prep for a show to cut down, assuming that you've probably done 9 months of bulking or something, then you need to do that 3 months, load up on all the polyphenols and probably maintain that same slower, do that reverse dieting for 1 to 3 months after.
Yeah.
I know a standard process. I was talking to Mick Galley earlier. He's one of the best prep coaches around. He talks about reverse dieting and basically instructing people to follow a particular campaign for a month after it. He says that a lot of people
Very
don't.
hard.
Of course they're going to throw the cheat meals in there and that sort of stuff. This is the key though. It's just human nature. Of course that's going to happen. The key is when you're cutting down is to kill the bugs. Make sure you're changing your microbiome at the same time as you're changing your body. So you've got the lean microbiome at the end so you don't get the stuff to pop back up.
And this brings me to another point. I don't know if you guys have researched this or not. And we talked about obviously understanding the gut, the rebound, weight gate, how all that works, which I think a lot of people are now starting to get through this podcast. And again, this comes back to another very controversial thing, which is exercise and weight loss. Now, you spoke before about some of the good gut bugs like Akkermansia love carbon, which is produced when you're effectively, when you're producing lactic acid and you're doing significant, exercise for a long period of time, which is actually, building up lactic acid and that's actually affecting the gut microbiome as well too.
Sure is.
So, and I appreciate a lot of people go, no, steady state and, low intensity or high intensity over a short period of time, but there is an impact on your gut flora by the type of exercise that you do as well too. Have you guys broken that down?
No, not specifically for today. I mean, we've got a fair bit of data. Like there's a heap of data to show exercise modulates our gut flora through a variety of mechanisms. One of the main mechanisms is via NRF2 activation. There's a process of that. Now, interesting thing is, again, a lot of herbs are NRF2 activators, which can help to change microbiome. But yeah, absolutely, exercise has a massive effect on it.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I know that training with weights, real heavy weights, is actually really good. And I think, Matt, you were showing me some stuff. I don't know if we've got into it where the weights are actually covered with certain stuff.
No, man, we haven't got into that.
No, I don't know if you want to.
I don't want to now. What's the time? No, man, we're about to finish. That is like that is a can of worms that is I cannot deal with in a couple of minutes.
No, and so we'll mention that another time. But I mean, again, look at say soccer players for example. I mean, you say it all the time, Matt. We saw the Brisbane Raw soccer team, and they're fit and they're healthy, but they are tiny. Yeah. They're like man-children.
I was looking at going, look at all these kids with beards and suits.
Yeah, But that's because, they are lean. I mean, and a large percentage of the population would love to be like that because they are ripped and shredded. And again, it's not just because they're burning off the calories; it's because their gut microbiome, I believe, has changed because of that. But I'd love to get into that to look at. Okay, what does?
Let's do that next. We exercise for microbiome.
That's beautiful and a good
Sounds
idea.
Like fun
because and I'm interested as well too.
And then we can talk about my can of worms.
Well, before you get to your can of worms,
no, I'm talking next podcast.
Yeah. But right about the
we do exercise, microbiome, and other things that change your microbiome.
Like in terms of what equipment you use could actually directly affect.
Yeah.
If you're going to put yourself into anabolic. Anyway, so
this is the guy, the adult that says, "Oh, don't tell secrets. Oh, don't get drunk with that person."
No. I'm just whetting their appetite. But what it's really cool though is that in terms of then actually taking part not only in types of foods and types of things like the polyphenols but then customizing your gut flora. We're getting, we said it a few months ago, it would be awesome then to go, right, this is what I want to achieve. So therefore, here's the foods that I'm going to eat. Here's the foods I'm going to avoid. I'm going to load up on more of this type of polyphenol. I'm going to do this kind of exercise to get the gut microbiome that I want that's going to help me to perform at my best, whatever that may look like, whether it's weight loss, whether it's muscle gain, whether it's endurance, whether it's, whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't give anything away about what Matt was talking about. I said I won't.
Steve.
But
people say that stuff before they do it. So don't be offended by what I'm about to say. But
I'm totally offended.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No,
look, don't take this the wrong way. How can you not?
But people, talk about the long-term fasted cardio and the weights. You hit the nail on the head before where you burn fat 24 hours a day. The weights stimulate the body's metabolism to repair the muscle damage after you've done it. And that's what burns the fat, not while you're hitting the weights in the gym.
And the microbiome are involved in those processes,
Absolutely.
which is why the microbiome changes in response to...
I said I'm not going to...
No, but what I was going to say is yesterday, I'd like to say I planned it, but I didn't. It was just totally Brooko said you need to do this, and I did it. But yesterday I wrote up a Metabolic food list.
Right.
So what I've written up is a whole list of foods that you can add to your diet. So while you're doing your comp prep or while you're doing your diet, or just for everyone just to be aware of it, these are the foods you can incorporate into your diet, make them match into your macro plan, whatever carb, protein, fats or whatever, but give you a food list of the foods that are really high in polyphenols that'll change your gut flora. So if you eat those foods, in whatever calorie macro plan your coach and you've worked out is best for you, but if you add those foods into your diet as your preferred sources of carbs, spices, condiments and that, you can change your gut flora to prevent rebound weight gain. Love it. Thank you. Do you love that?
I do. And, this is stage one. As I said, I think being able to customise your gut flora in terms of what you want to do, that to me is so exciting.
Well, a very simple thing, for example, you get the no weight, you put some nutmeg or cinnamon or, something like that in there.
Don't spoil my list, Steve. They've got to go to atpscience.com and pop in Metabolic diet, I think.
Do that. Don't listen. No, do that because that's good because it gives you a complete list and you can customise.
But it is all those things that you just said.
Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, this is the beauty about where we're going with nutrition. I remember when I was.
I'll tell you something. While you're talking about protein, I just totally interrupted you. I know you were going to say something amazing, and I just thought it was something probably mediocre that I interrupted you with. But when you're selecting protein sources as part of your cutting phase, whey and legume-based proteins will create a gut flora that'll let your weight to come back.
Yes.
So you go for collagen or brown rice.
Is that right?
Yes.
Because lactobacillus acidophilus is, loving in the milk and that sort of thing. And that is a weight gaining.
That's where it gets its name, it loves this stuff.
Yeah, lacto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It loves it.
Acidophilus lives in a low pH.
Beans make you fart because beans block the absorption of carbs and the breakdown of, they block amylase activity, which digests sugars, which allows more sugar to go down and maintain your microbiome. Even though you're not getting them, they get it. So it stops you getting the sugar, but it feeds the microbiome that made you fat in the first place.
Which means that, again, you feel unsatisfied for your sugar cravings.
Yeah, you're unsatisfied and the bugs are getting the food and they're thriving and you're sitting there with no energy, tired, and these bugs are sitting there going, just make him fat anyway. He deserves it for being stupid.
Bloody bugs.
There's a lot. Okay. What else? Do you guys want to finish off on anything else? Because we need to get into the FAQs pretty soon.
We should get into the FAQs but this is just amazing. We recap the thyroid's not the real culprit here. That's not why you're obese.
We even showed that leptin stuff, things that work on insulin, things that work on metabolism. Those sort of things definitely help you lose weight definitely help you change your body, but they do not help you keep it off.
And long-term weight loss is something that is a lifestyle. It's not a 3-month diet plan and then expect that you're going to keep it off for life. You won't. You'll rebound that weight back on. And you need to look at it over, as you say, Matt, at the very, very least, you need to looking at it probably at double that. 6 months, probably 9 months would be ideal.
And I know we recommended Gut Right as a source of polyphenols and T432 Plus as a good source of polyphenols, but make sure you do the foods because they're much bigger dose than you can get. These things are dietary supplements. And do the foods because if you get those foods into your habits, then all of a sudden you've got all of these recipes and these meals and these sauces and these things that in salad dressing, all these things you actually love, you've totally forgotten they're part of a diet and they maintain in your lifestyle for forever. And then the things like the Gut Rights and the T432, in the days that you're not getting them or while you're traveling or while you're not prepping your meals or whatever, you can supplement your diet with these polyphenols. But if you can force them in, the only challenge that we kept going back to was the fact that our food has changed. So the levels of polyphenols, even when you're doing everything right, the levels in our polyphenols in our food has significantly reduced.
Well, and the other thing as well too is if you're focused on eating those kinds of things, those sorts of salads, which most people, if they're on a diet, they're eating a lot of salads and that sort of stuff. The nice thing is if you're eating that, you're not eating the crap or you're not eating things that aren't. So So again, it's almost like competitive exclusion. Focus on eating these foods, so therefore you won't actually want to eat the other.
And don't focus on avoidance, focus on the things you have to put in. And if you're spending all your time focusing on, man, I have to get in this amount of rosemary, I have to get in this amount of coriander, I have to get in this amount of these actual ingredients in my day to maintain my gut, then you're not thinking about the things you're avoiding. You're actually full.
Good one.
Amazing, eh? Look, it's pretty incredible that I like the idea of focusing on good food instead of cutting out bad ones.
Yeah, man.
Cutting calories, it's a bit of a lost cause at the end of the day, really, unless you address the gut.
Yeah.
If
My
you've
biotic
got
diet list does not have an avoid section, by the way.
No.
So just focus on what you're going to throw in there.
And obviously, if you're coming into a competition, which is a little bit different, and you're working with a coach and he's obviously worked out your metabolic rate and how many calories you need to be on, great. Then do that for that particular period of time. But for the average person, should make this as part of their long-term food plan.
Absolutely.
And the nice thing is, as I said before as well too, when you start eating a lot of these polyphenols and killing off these bags that are craving sugars, it's easier to maintain diet because you don't crave them. It's not like you're not going, oh, I need to go and have a chocolate now. I need some sugar. You're like, no, you know what? I'm in control. So therefore, a little bit of willpower is required as opposed to a ridiculous amount of willpower.
But
Totally
it's
agree.
easier to have the willpower when your motivation is killing off bugs that made you fat. So if you're sitting there getting a craving as part of a campaign, realizing that there is a starving bug, a bug that was responsible for your fattiness originally, that is sitting there trying to trick you into eating more. So if you think, because normally you're craving carbs and you'll be sitting there low on energy and blah, 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 and you'll be thinking, I need this. And I'm getting this craving because I need it. Well, acknowledge the fact that probably 80% of that craving is actually the bug saying, try and trick you into needing it.
So think of a little parasite
screw
sitting
him.
there,
Just go, "No,
just
I'm
going,
not
I'm going to
gonna
make
feed
you
you."
fat. I'm going to take all the energy out of this, and I'm going to make more of my
So
mates.
what you do, you cheat. You throw in the polyphenols with the sugar as nature intended. So if you have to have the carbs, then spike it with polyphenols.
Yeah,
Easy, huh?
It's classic, keeping off the refined foods, of course.
Yeah.
That's still go. I mean, because refined foods has taken out the polyphenols.
Yep.
So you've
Remember
got
that dodgy study years ago where they did?
Dodgy
Remember
studies,
that
been
other
a few.
company we worked at, and it wasn't a dodgy study, but they basically created a diet strategy which was very simple, and they said avoid everything white.
White, yeah.
Yes.
Just avoid white. It was the no white diet.
Cauliflower's
These
bad
people
for you, is
had
it?
significant. Yeah, but they were mainly that got thrown out with a baby. That's a baby with a bathwater sort
Yeah.
of scenario.
Well, we
that
can't
one.
have
But
that.
they're mainly talking about white sugar, white milk, white flours, white rice, and it says all of those things that you eat that are white. If you take them out or replace them with brown versions of those, like chocolate milk, no.
I was going to say, what about turnips?
Yeah,
I love
like
turnips.
brown rice, brown bread, and all that sort
Wow.
of stuff. Then they actually they had significant weight loss, and it maintained it long term. But the main difference is what adds the colour to the foods, the polyphenols.
Yeah, right.
So all they're doing is saying, while you're cutting dieting, make sure you're eating polyphenols, and it still worked. So it's all starting to make sense.
It does. It's interesting. You learn something
Anyway,
new every
we're
day.
running out of time. And
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
it's good
you.
to be back.
Welcome
It's
back.
good to be back.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right.
And we'll see you next week with some breakthrough information, Matt, that you've been scared to share because you're not sure how
I'm not scared to share. I can't wait to share it.
Mate, it's controversial.
Oh,
Very
yeah, that
controversial.
one, yeah.
If you go to the gym, you got to listen to
Listen to
this.
that podcast,
I don't
yeah.
care if you're a 5-6 days a week sort of a person or a 2 to 3 times a week. You've got to hear this information.
I reckon it's a classic.
Even if you're a window licker from the outside, you've got to listen to this.
It will blow your mind. All right. With that being said,
Yes, window licking. All right, have a good day, guys.
see you later.
All right.